afternoon. Welcome back to Sutton. We're here again, once again this afternoon to give you all some help and advice about how to keep your businesses successful, surviving through this current crisis that we're in. We've been here now for quite a few weeks, giving you advice on all sorts of different levels. And as we approach the potential return to business, today we're going to concentrate on how we can help to give you further advice on what you might need to be thinking about right now about bringing your businesses back. What we know is that there's still a lot of uncertainties, and we certainly don't have all the answers, but we have a great panel again, most of whom you will all know, those of you that have been with us on previous sessions. So it's great to be surrounded by some good friends who we've got to know quite well within these little square tiles on our screens over recent weeks. So just to introduce you and remind you who we have. First of all, Patricia, who we'll hear from very shortly, who is leading the charge here in Sutton, running the Business Improvement District. We also have Helen with us from the HR department based in Sutton. Helen can give us the very latest on what we should be doing about our furloughed staff, about maybe how we should be thinking about our holidays. Should we be taking them? Shouldn't we be taking them? Amongst other things. Jackie is with us from Bryden Johnson, accountancy practice, a wealth of clients locally, and hearing firsthand from them and sharing with you what some of the concerns are around how to keep your finances going and what you should be planning and moving ahead. Also back with us is Rob Cundy from Edge Recovery. Now, as we've said in the past, you don't just need Rob at the very last minute when you have no other option but to close the business. You should be talking to people like Rob right now to find out what your options are and how you might have to reshape the business. And we've talked about that a lot in recent weeks. What we know is that we won't all be able to come back in the way we left. And so it's about taking some time now to work out what that new look company might need to look like. Also with us, I think for the first time in Sutton, but no stranger to many of us, we've got Rajan here. Rajan is the franchisee holder for Coversure Insurance, and he can give us a bit of an insight into the insurance world and what as businesses you might need to be thinking about both now in terms of the last few weeks and what you've gone through, how you need to be reading those policies, and should you be taking out any extra insurances as you look to reopen your businesses in whatever form that might take. So welcome to all of them. Welcome to you watching us from wherever you are today. Just to remind those of you that are doing that we do want to hear from you today. This is your opportunity both to listen to us, but hopefully to also put your questions to our panelists. And to remind you, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can ask a question using the Q&A button that's in your panel. That would enable me to ask the question on your behalf. Or if you'd like to ask that question personally, you can wave a remote hand at me. And that will give me a little sign that tells me that you would like to ask your question. It would be great if some of you felt brave enough to come on, particularly as that would give you maybe an opportunity to share your experience and share exactly where you are at the moment as a business. That's always really helpful to hear from others about their current situations. Other people can learn a lot from that. So I would encourage you, if you are watching and you're feeling brave, please do wave that hand at me and we'll invite you into the conversation. We also have the chat button. And what I would advise everyone to do is to open that button up and have it open on your screen, because that's where our panelists and those of you watching can say hello and share information. I'm just going to do hello into that now, and you'll see that that's me. I've just said hello to everybody. Actually, I haven't said hello to everybody. I've just realised I've said only hello to our panelists. So I'll do it again to prove that I do know what I'm talking about this afternoon. I'm now going to say hello to those people watching at home. So there we go. So do use that button to talk to us as well. Put some comments in there, share information, share knowledge through that chat button, and hopefully we can all benefit from the interaction that's going to take place in the next hour. So we'll also be running some polls again as we do. They'll pop up on your screen. When they come up, we'd ask you just to take a few seconds to give us your views on those polls. That helps us to evaluate exactly how things are moving forward and what maybe the current needs are. So first of all, I'm going to pass over, as always, to Patricia. You can give us the sort of overview of where Sutton is at the moment, what Sutton is thinking, what the plans are for getting businesses back. Over to you, Patricia.
Thanks, Catherine. Hello, everyone. So I think this week, I was saying earlier on before we came on the call, that actually this week has been a bit of a week of learning and updating really for me, because there's been so much guidance that has come out, so many people coming to me with different ideas or things they want to do inside their businesses to reopen. And really my role this week has been mainly looking at all of that and seeing if we can piece something together that all businesses can use, that they can use as a form of checklist to kind of go through and say, right, have I considered all of these things? So I've been working on that mainly. We've been working on our group procurement as well for businesses, where you can apply and get some PPE at a reduced cost. So we've been doing a lot of work with Meerkat around that as well. But mainly it's been communicating with the council, communicating with the police, and communicating with business to understand what the plans are, particularly around the infrastructure changes that are going to be needed to the town centre moving forward, which is a far bigger picture than really one person can deal with as a bid manager. So you need to kind of work as closely in partnership as possible. So we're kind of developing that a little bit further, and thankfully we're kind of on the road to getting some really good partnership work and going sort of moving forward over the next few weeks. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But I suppose from today, as we've said, the reason we're doing a second webinar on this subject is because there's a lot to try and understand and a lot for businesses to consider here. Again, something else that came to me this week is there's the little things that I hadn't even thought about, particularly when reopening the Midtown Hub, that I now have to start thinking about in terms of the people that are going to be using it, how many are going to want to, how many are going to want to work from home from now on. So all these little things that you don't consider when you're ploughing ahead and trying to get your doors reopened again. So I hope this is a benefit for everyone. There certainly is a lot of information on our website, so I would urge everyone to go onto our website and have a look at some of the stuff we do. We do update it regularly and daily with any kind of guidance or changes there. But yeah, I look forward to today, and hopefully everyone's going to get a lot out of it. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Patricia. Just before we move on, I just wanted to pick up on any intelligence that there is out there potentially around particular businesses. I think the British Retail Consortium is saying that they think that up to 80% of retail businesses could be open on the 1st of June. And we know as part of that there are some sectors, and then I think hospitality and leisure is being talked about potentially opening on around about the 1st of July. What that actually looks like, we've obviously yet to see. But in terms of, let's just talk about Sutton High Street. Is that your understanding? Do you see evidence of that coming forward?
Yes. Let's just say yes. I think everyone is ploughing ahead with the idea that they're going to be open on the 1st of June or within a short time scale from that. Certainly a lot of businesses are setting up at the moment. I know there's a lot of activity in stores, putting things in place and social distancing measures inside and outside. I think that the other thing that did get raised this week, which was quite interesting, that there was an expectation of a drop in overall footfall, and what we should be expecting in footfall into our businesses by between 35 to 40% less than we would normally get, and working on that basis, which I think is really important for people to keep in their minds when they're doing all this wonderful stuff in stores and, you know, changing things around and putting things in place. Just remember your footfall isn't going to be where it was, and just to kind of manage expectations as well. We can get very excited, and particularly if we've been stuck at home for a long time, about the prospect of these things opening up and wanting to go and see spaces. But the reality is that, you know, how many people are going to do that? And also, as I said earlier on, the thing for me is looking at the demographic that are going to be doing that as well. So your customers, the people that normally come, might not be the same that come now. So you've got to kind of be able to manage and adapt to that accordingly, and not really expect the same customer base that you had before. So there's a few interesting surveys and a few interesting things that came out in articles, particularly this week, in and around that subject. So I'll be more than happy to put those on the website as well for people to look at, because it's some quite interesting stuff there.
I think, you know, I think that would be really helpful. The reality is nobody knows, do they, how it's going to happen. So I guess in terms of business planning, you know, trying to plan ahead, I'm going to come to Jackie, because I know that you're very involved with a number of businesses across all sectors, looking at what their business planning, what the scenarios are moving forward. What's your feedback on this whole issue?
Well, I think going forward, people are still looking at their cash flows. They're still doing their budgets. They're trying to plan not just for the next 3 months, the next 6 months, and they're now trying to look forward even longer to work out what their business is going to look like. I think people are using the word agile to try and make their businesses a bit more agile, be creative in the way they run their businesses. I know we've seen a lot of creativity over the last couple of months. Some of my clients are doing particularly very well at the moment. My haulage companies are doing well because they're obviously transporting medical equipment to the NHS. And my homeopathy business is doing very, very well. But I think the important thing is there's still government funding out there, so people are still applying for CBILS loans. I do understand that the rejection rate is extremely high still, but it's actually getting the right advice and putting the plan together properly and getting advice from your accountant and your bank manager in how to actually put that business plan together. Because if you put it forward incorrectly, you will just get rejected. And now we've got the new bounce back loans, which I know are £50,000. And I have had some clients who've successfully got those. I've also had clients who've successfully got their CBIL loans this week. So some people have had 100,000, some people have had 200,000. One client of mine got 175,000, and that's just given them a breather just to think about what they're going to do. And I know Helen will talk about this later, but you know, to be honest, the furlough extension has really helped some of our clients so that they can, when they're allowed to come back and do some work, that's going to help them going forward, because at the moment we can't bring anyone back when they're on furlough. So that flexibility is going to help a lot of clients. But I think my key message is just keep thinking about cash flow. Don't build up too much of a debt next year. That is my only fear, that I've got clients saying, oh, I've deferred my rent, I've got a rates relief rebate, I've got a capital repayment holiday, and I don't have to pay my VAT till next March. And I'm a little bit fearful that people will survive this year, and then they're going to suddenly realise, because someone said to me yesterday, oh, but I can spread that VAT, I don't need to pay the VAT next March, do I? And I went, no, they've given you quite a few months of deferral. When you get to March, they will expect you to pay your VAT in March. So I think people are maybe not being as realistic about the amounts of money that they've deferred, and I think that build up is going to be quite a substantial hit next year. So just be really careful and be really realistic.
I'm going to bring Rob in, because I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that in terms of the planning that you're doing with clients and the scenario planning that you're doing. We are in a bubble. We are managing at the moment to defer some payments, but one day that will all be due. And if our business model and our turnover isn't going to match that, it's never going to add up, is it? So what advice are you giving at the moment?
Yes, thanks, Catherine. I mean, I agree 100% with Jackie on this. You know, cash flows and budgeting is absolutely vital. You must have the cash if you actually want to survive. So what we're talking to people about is, now that things are starting to relax and people are generally able to come back in, the question is, can you? Are you actually going to make money? And if you aren't going to make money and possibly make losses, can you sustain those losses? Can you actually keep your business going, maybe rebuild it from the start again, look at the number of staff that you actually need, look at whether you need some of these elements, and actually try and start from a little bit more of a fresh base. But we're certainly looking at businesses where we expect them to probably make losses over the first little bit of time. And then the question is, do you want to actually trade and make those losses so you keep, obviously, customers, keep everything going, keep a footprint on the actual marketplace? Or do you just not open and actually just carry on? You've got furlough until the end of July now, and other things going on that no doubt Helen's going to cover. And you know, when is the right time to start, and what is your business going to look like when it does start? Taking on board the points Patricia was making about footfall, taking on point, the points Jackie was making about cash flow. You've got to be able to run your business and sustain it, not just for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, but going into next year, when you might have to start paying capital back, when you might have to start making these payments to the inland revenue. Your suppliers, who might be very good to you right now, are going to need the cash themselves at some point. And this is something that you need to look at and say, have I got the reserves to do it, to be able to survive? And that is partly, well, very much the message that we're actually saying to people, and the questions we're getting asked at the moment as well.
And I know you said, I think it was last week or whenever it was, that, you know, your advice is where these loans are concerned, you know, if you can get one, bearing in mind that obviously you do need to pay them back, then actually at the moment it's probably worth getting one, because it gives you that little bit of a comfort blanket. Obviously you've got to work out how you pay them back, but not to be frightened, particularly with this bounce back loan, which is the smaller amount.
And I still stand by that. That my view certainly is that if you can get loans, get them. But the caveat to that is make sure you can pay them back, and you don't have to use the money. Just because you have the loan sitting in your bank account and you've got the cash reserve and you've got it sitting there and you've got the facilities and the working capital, don't just blow it all on, you know, immediacies. Look at your 12-month, 18-month, 24-month position, and that cash is what's going to get you through the period. That is the working capital that will actually support your losses, support the things that you actually need, so that hopefully when it does come to actually making capital and interest, remember you're paying interest on these loans after 12 months, you know, when you actually come to paying that, be able to do so. Your cash flow must be able to support that. Because as Jackie said, if all you're doing is building up a bigger problem for 9 months away from now, you're just going to, you know, all you're doing is it's short-termism, and you might survive now, but you've got to look at this is not going to actually come out in the next 9 months, and suddenly you're all going to be wonderful and rosy again after then. It's a long game, this. Thank
you. Okay, thanks, Rob. I'm going to bring Helen in. We do have a comment, I guess, in the chat, just from Hannah, who runs Hype Fitness, and clearly she's saying she isn't going to be able to open on the 1st of July. I think it's important to stress that, you know, you must open when it's ready for you to open, and you shouldn't be pressurised in feeling that it's the right time to open. You have to have everything in place, and it has to be the right trading climate, I guess, for you to open. But, you know, picking up on this subject, Helen, one of our biggest costs for many of us is staff, and they're also our most important asset. Most of us couldn't carry on if we didn't have a good staff team around us. So can you just update us on that in terms of furloughing and what the latest things are?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So just a little recap then. We heard recently, didn't we, that the furlough scheme is being extended again. And two kind of dates for us really to think about. One is that it's continuing until the end of July in exactly the same format. So those of you that do employ staff and have or would like to put people on furlough, you can still do that, and you can plan for that being up until the end of July in exactly the same way as it currently runs. After that, it is going to be continue to be extended until the end of October, but between August and October we'll see some slight changes. We're waiting for those changes to be announced properly to us, which should be by the end of next week. But what we do know is that there will be some element of being able to part furlough people. So one of the issues, as many of you will know, is that once you've furloughed your employee, you must keep them on furlough for a minimum of 3 weeks to be able to make your claim and to get the reimbursement. But you're not allowed to ask them to lift a finger for you. They can't work for you, so they can't check an email, they can't chat to a client, they can't make some posts on social media, they can't do a number of things that you might like them to do, and they would be keen to, some people are keen to do some work as well, so you can't ask them to do that. They can go and work somewhere else, but they can't work for you while they're on furlough. But come August to October, we're expecting to see that you will be able to have some element of working whilst people are on furlough. I think that what will happen is that you as an employer will be asked to contribute towards that 80% of their salary, or the cap at 2,500. So at the moment you're getting all of that paid at 80%, or the 2,500 paid for or reimbursed to you. You will be asked to contribute towards that. Heard lots of rumours, but I don't have any inside information, so I won't quote anything here. So they're the changes that we know are likely to happen.
And with regards to that, bearing in mind that at some point in August, we will probably have to start contributing. Now is the time to be thinking about unfortunately, redundancies, restructuring?
Absolutely. I'm really, really encouraging all the clients that I'm talking to think about what you think your business might look like, either when you're allowed to reopen or when you, if you've already been working, if you think things are going to increase, and think about what you can work out in terms of the shape of your business. How do you think your business is going to look? Patricia talked earlier about different footfall coming through the door if you're a retailer. So when you can open, you don't necessarily have to bring everybody back to work, and have a think about how you're going to structure that. And certainly if you think that you're going to need to maybe make redundancies, as unfortunate as it is for those people that will be affected, you need to start thinking about those now in order to use the period that we have where you're getting some reimbursement of staff salaries to start those consultations, and bearing in mind that people will have a notice period. So if somebody's been with you for 12 or more years, they'll have at least 12 weeks notice that you'll need to pay, whether they work it or not. So you could be building some or all of that into the time when they're on the furlough scheme. So that could be saving you a lot of money.
Yeah, okay, that's really, really helpful. Raj, I'm going to come across to you. First of all, you are obviously a business owner, you've got staff, you're currently working at home, so no doubt you're making plans or not to come back. But I guess, first of all, just let's start off with the issue of insurance. What are the big things at the moment that people need to be aware of?
Thank you, and hello to everybody. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, that the first thing that's happened is the FCA, which is our regulatory body for insurance brokers and insurance intermediaries in the UK, have stepped in now to try and get some clarity and some legal, clarity on business interruption claims. So that's the first thing that I think is probably paramount and quite important to a lot of business owners who have maybe put a claim in, has been declined, and that. So I would say watch that space. They have gone to get legal advice on this, which hopefully then will be a benchmark going forward for people who put a claim in. And also for us as brokers, because at the moment we're not quite sure what to say to a client and how to give help, because we're acting for our clients, but our hands are a little bit tied. So even as a broker, I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening there. So that's the first thing.
Just to be clear, this is about companies that had written in their contracts already that they had a form of business interruption insurance, but when they've gone to ask for it, they've been refused, presumably because it's a force majeure and that global pandemic.
It's like a thumbprint. Every policy wording is slightly different. Every business is slightly different. There's different types of policies for different types of industry and trades. So it is a complex matter. It's not a simple thing that, I've got business interruption in my policy wording, so you must pay me. It's not as simple as that. And that's why me as a broker, I feel really good that the FCA, which is the highest ranking authority for us as a broker in the UK, has now stepped in and is taking some steps to bring some clarity. And also, I hope, some confidence back to the UK public about insurance. I'm really happy with that stance that they've taken. And everybody, including myself, I'm sure is looking forward to seeing what the outcome for that is. Other things to bear in mind is that if you are returning to work, that's great. If you did reduce your cover while you are off in lockdown, make sure you get your cover up to date. Ring your insurer, ring your broker. If you're going to continue not to go back, like us, for example, we made a decision to at least stay working from home at least till the end of June. Then be aware that you understand the unoccupancy clause in your policy. A lot of the larger insurers extended the normal 30 days to 60 or 90 days. So even if you are lucky and had 90 days, that will be coming up on the 23rd of June. So do talk to your insurer and talk to your broker and ask them that if I haven't been trading, if I haven't been trading for my office or my place of business, what are my terms? Is there a deadline by which my cover may automatically be reduced or be restricted? So be aware of your policy. It is your policy. You are the policy holder. You should know what it does for you. So be aware, whether you're going back or you're not, understand what that clause is. Other things to be aware of, and I've said this at every opportunity I've had, is if you've asked your team or even yourself and you're working from home, if you've taken any equipment home by the company, it could be a simple laptop, a mobile, a desktop. We've given our team their 2 screens and their desktops. Now in total, that may be worth £800-900 per person. That is owned by the company, but now it's not in the office anymore. It's in their home. So make sure you've told your insurer that I've sent my team home and they've taken company equipment with them. So if something happened to that equipment while they're away, it is covered. So be aware of that. This is really important. And the larger your team and the more equipment you've given away, the more you should, be aware of this. So talk to your broker, talk to your insurer to say, look, what do I need to be aware of? One other very important ruling that came out yesterday from the FCA is about helping clients that are in financial problems with paying their premiums. And there is new guidance that has been submitted to us as a broker and to insurance companies. So if you are having difficulty paying your premium, either to the broker or the insurer, pick up the phone. We've been given guidelines where we can help you now. The word deferral, where everybody's shared, but again, as Jackie said, be careful. Deferral does mean at some stage you have to pay it back. But if you are finding it difficult, then do speak to your broker, your insurer, because there is help. And now we have guidance as to how we can help you. So that I think that's a really great promotion by the FCA to say, look, we're giving you a little bit of slack, a little bit of leeway here of how you can help your clients. So I'm really grateful for that. Going forward, if you've got a renewal coming up.
I don't know if it's just me, but so I don't know whether it's just me. Maybe it's me that's frozen. Someone talk to me.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're just cutting in and out.
Okay, I was having difficulty hearing you there, Raja. Wasn't sure whether it was my signal or yours, to be honest, but potentially mine. We have just put a confidence survey up, so if I could all ask you to take a few moments. What we have been seeing this week particularly is that confidence is in slightly. I guess that's understandable. We've sort of been in this bubble and we're all sort of probably got used to being where we are, and now it's the thought of coming out into a new world, and that's probably making many people a bit more jittery than perhaps they were. So it'd be interesting to see how that plans out. Rob, I want to come back to you because you mentioned something before we came on air around the insolvency law and the changes that are being made. Can you share that with us all, please?
Yes. Previously, the government had made an announcement that they would suspend wrongful trading. Now, wrongful trading, for those who don't know, is actually a penalty on directors that if they trade a business knowing that they are insolvent, potentially the directors can become personally liable for the losses that they actually incur while they're actually trading. Obviously, this is a considerable concern for a lot of directors, and the government was conscious that directors needed to have the freedom to make decisions. So the government said, oh yes, this will all happen backdated to the 1st of March. They also announced that there was going to be, new legislation around insolvency that kind of helped people sort out the problems that they're facing now. That legislation has now gone to Parliament and is being voted on. There's a bill that's been put forward. I believe it was yesterday it actually went in, so it's fairly hot off the press. We expect it to become law, so wrongful trading will become suspended for the period, probably from, well, at the moment they're saying from the 1st of March until the 30th of June. On top of that, they've also put in temporary measures where people cannot issue statutory demands and they cannot issue winding up petitions. So pursuit of debt is going to become that much more harder for pursuing people and actually trying to recover it, and for people to be placed into companies to be placed into liquidation because they put a provision on it. It's, I suppose, good news from the fact that this is there in place. I personally also think that, well, the fact that they put it to the end of June, I think we're all going to be in this until the end of June anyway, and I think people are going to start looking at these kind of mechanisms after June, and whether they then extend it to allow that to happen, I don't know whether it's going to have an impact. It will just stop people right now. They had already put in prohibitions and laws about commercial landlords suing companies for their rent arrears. This is now seems to be encompassing everybody, that you just cannot put a company into liquidation if you're owed money. So you have to sit back and wait, I'm afraid. There are other rules that they've actually now put in as well. They're trying to bring in a new insolvency regime. So we previously had the opportunity to have CVAs, administrations, liquidations. They're all mechanisms to be able to either keep the business going, sell the business, or shut it down. Well, they've now put in this new mechanism, which is to do with a restructuring of the business. And they're giving, or they appear to be giving the control, the financial control, to an insolvency practitioner, where you can restructure your business and agree terms with your creditors that they will get paid back in a certain amount at a certain time, etc. So the detail hasn't been really fleshed out yet. We're still waiting to know exactly how this will happen and whether it's something that is available. I'll be honest with you, my initial feeling personally is I think that the whole restructuring thing is probably more it's more going to be suited for large companies. SMEs, I think the cost of doing this, to have an insolvency practitioner running your company while you try and restructure, is going to be prohibitive. But they've come out with some good sound bites about actually being able to help businesses, but I think that they're going to be more targeted towards the bigger ones. So this law has been coming in for, it's been in draft since August 2018, so it's not exactly a new law. And the only reason it hasn't come so far is because there were so many questions that actually rose about it, about what actually our role as insolvency practitioner would be, that they haven't actually put it into law because nobody really knows. So we will see. So what's happening now, Patricia's asked the question, the change in the law and the restructuring and the actual opportunity to have that restructuring regime is designed to be a permanent feature. Stopping wrongful trading, stopping statutory demands, and stopping winding up petitions is currently a temporary measure to the end of June, with provision to extend it for another 6 months if they want to by secondary legislation. So they can push it out if they want to. It's currently designed just to stop everybody having major problems right now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Apologies if I keep disappearing. My internet is definitely not behaving this afternoon. But I could hear you. Everyone looked like they were frozen, but I think that was probably my end. I'm going to come to Helen, a few negative. We'd all like to go on holiday. Helen, can you just update us on what should be happening with regards to staffing and their holidays?
Yeah, so this is another really important thing in terms of your planning. Most of us went on to lockdown somewhere at the beginning of March. Or middle of March, and we're still on a kind of lockdown now. So not many of us have been able to actually go away and do any holidays that we had planned or would like to do. We've had some bank holidays, and we've had Easter, and we've got a half term coming up. But it's really important that you ask your staff to take their holiday rather than carrying it over. So the government passed some emergency legislation that does permit employees to carry over any holiday or up to 20 days of their holiday that they've been unable to take due to coronavirus. So that's great. We can carry that over for another 2 years. But of course, you're really, a bit like Jackie saying with the loans, you're really just pushing a problem a little bit further along the line. You might be spreading it out a little bit, and that might be really helpful to allow them to carry over some of their holiday. You might like to do that, you might prefer to do that, and it might be beneficial to them. But 20 days is quite a lot of holiday to spread out in addition to their normal holiday entitlement they're going to get for the next 2 years as well. And of course, when we do eventually, as the lockdown does start to ease more and more, and if we are allowed to travel and go away, at the end of the year, people are going to start asking you if they can take holiday. So you need to start planning how you're going to manage that now. I would suggest that people who are on furlough, particularly if they've been on a long period of furlough and you're going to keep them on furlough, that you ask those people to also take some holiday. Now, to ask any employee to take holiday, you just need to give them twice the amount of notice as the holiday you want them to take. So if you want them to take a week, you need to give them 2 weeks notice. Now, if they're on furlough, you do need to be able to have the cash flow and the funds to be able to top up their pay for any holiday that you ask them to take. So if they're being paid 80%, you'll need to top it up to their 100% salary. If you're only getting back the 2,500 cap and their salary is much higher than that, you'll need the funds to pay them the additional amount of money to top their salary up to 100%. So not all businesses are going to be able to do that, but if you can, I would suggest it's a really, really good way of planning for the future, planning for now, because you're going to get your 80% reimbursement. So the government's paying you to pay your staff to take a little bit of holiday. You should communicate this really carefully with them, and you'll be able to plan over at least the next 2 months, where we know in June and July that this furlough scheme is remaining the same. So you could ask them to take some holiday in June and some holiday in July. That will help you in terms of your cash flow, because you can spread that cost over 2 months. And it might help them as well. They might be really pleased to receive the top up to the 100% of pay for just perhaps a week or a short amount of time. Remember that if you aren't able to do that, if somebody leaves, and it might be because you embark on a redundancy program now, or if they leave in the future over the next 2 years and they've saved up quite a lot of holiday, then you have to pay them for any untaken holiday when they leave. That's the only time you can pay holiday instead of letting people take it, when it's the statutory holiday. So again, it's another financial implication for you when you're thinking about your planning for the future.
Can I ask on that, if it is your intention to make a currently furloughed member of staff redundant at some point, say at the end of July or whenever, are you allowed to ask them to take some holiday before that date to avoid having to then pay their holiday, if that makes sense?
It does make sense, yes. So you can ask people under any circumstances, and not just if they're on furlough, to take holiday at any time, and that includes during any notice period. So as long as you're able to give them that notice of twice the amount of time that you want them to take, you can ask them to take holiday, and whether that's in notice, on furlough, that's absolutely fine.
So the difference there would be you'd just be topping up by 20% as opposed to having to pay them their holiday pay in full as part of a redundancy payout.
Yes, for the notice period. You still have to pay the redundancy, that's a separate payment.
Yeah. But for that. Okay, I think that's really helpful advice. Not a nice subject to maybe have to think about. If someone refuses, where does that leave you?
So I would say, as with all kind of disputes in the workplace, have a chat with them and try and work it out, try and sort out in their minds what their issues are. Clearly, some people will be a bit upset that, well, I can't go to my caravan, I can't go to sunny Spain, I can't go wherever I want to go on my holiday. But you do have a right as an employer to give staff at any time. You could tell staff at any time to take all their holiday at a certain time. It's within your gift to do that. It's not something I would recommend normally, but I think if you explain that the difficult circumstances that we're in, and you're looking after the greater good of the business, and also you may have some employees who are not furloughed, who have been working really, really hard, and you may want to ask them to be able to give them the opportunity to take holiday when the people that are on furlough do come back. So I think some good old-fashioned communication hopefully will work it out, but you can do that in the knowledge that you're right and you are allowed to give that notice. So in some ways there's not really much choice, but I wouldn't want to wave that stick first of all.
No, and in terms of the staff that are on furlough, if you need to bring them back now, you can now unfurlough them, can't you? But I think there is a length of time that they then have to go back onto furlough for. Is that right?
Absolutely. You can bring somebody back from furlough at any time and for any length of time. So it could just be a day if you needed them back for a day. But in order to be able to get your reimbursement, you must make sure that any period of furlough, so the initial one and any subsequent furlough periods, are at least 3 weeks. Otherwise, you won't be able to claim the money back. So you could put them on furlough, and then if you've made a mistake or something changes and bring them back, you just won't be able to claim. So in order to claim, just make sure you're doing it in at least three week chunks. But you can bring them back for any period. That can be a short or a long period.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. I want to come back to Rajan. As a business, you've mentioned that you are thinking that you are definitely staying home for the time being. What are your thoughts about returning? And I know you're not based in Sutton, you're based in Croydon, but one town centre is very similar to another. As an employer, what are you having to put in place, and what sort of things can you share with the people listening about that?
We've been quite lucky, as you said earlier, as a franchise, we're getting so much support from our franchisor. So they're sending us a pack about returning to work, like a checklist, risk assessment included in there. We're, as you know, in a serviced office here, which is managed by a managing company. I've received an email from them today about the measures they're putting in from the 1st of June. As Helen said earlier, about hand sanitizers at exit points and things like that. So I think we're getting a lot of help in different ways of how we do that. I think internally, what we're deciding is we're a team of 4, is maybe coming in 2. So 2 come in for 1 week. And then the following week, the other 2, while those 2 stay at home. So we're still in discussion. We're still thinking about that. The office is probably big enough, but we will need to probably rearrange desks and rewire things and that. So I think maybe in the short term, we may just do 2 in, 2 out, and see where we go from there. But other clients, we've got some Sutton clients. Gowan Stevens is our client, the solicitors on Belgrave Road. They've been looking at what they've been doing as well. Obviously, like a lot of us working from home at the moment, but again, looking at 1st of June and trying to get back, because there are certain professions that need to be in an office. Our own accountant, they're based in Eltham. They're a team of 33. They're furloughed, most of them, but the main 2 partners and a core 4 people have been going in ever since lockdown. Because as an accountant, which unfortunately is still paper-based quite a lot, they need to be there to help their clients and service their clients. We've got another client in Sutton called Melgrave Heating. He's not stopped working since lockdown. He's been helping vulnerable people and the elderly. I mean, the weather may be beautiful, but people's boilers still stop and hot water stops. What he has seen recently, he's seen an upsurge since the construction industry has been asked to go back. So he's saying now where he's been coming to now finally plumb the boiler or finish off the bathroom and get those sort of projects back on track and get them to completion. So he's seen a sort of, an increase in work coming back towards him. The last one, we've got another really good client in Sutton called Sheen Windows, which unfortunately work stopped completely for them, because they couldn't go out and fit windows and that. They again are looking at now slowly returning, and hopefully their projects will come back online. But I think what everybody's looking at is how do we go back to work? What PPE do I need to take on? What measures do I need to take? How do I protect myself and my team, but also the public? So if you're going out and you do whatever you're doing, so I think people like Helen's firm and, lots of different firms and lots of different advice, which is available out there. I think, but as a business owner, sometimes what happens is it's almost like overkill. You're getting so much thrown at you, you're not quite sure what to look at and what applies to you as a business. But I feel there's a small confidence coming in business. I spoke to our photocopier supplier this morning because I'm in the office today to water the plants and check on the post. And, he spoke to me. His business has dropped 95%. They do schools and charities, and they do companies like us. And, they make money if we print and scan and do photocopies and colored photocopies. Nobody's doing that because we're not in the office. But he also has had phone calls now from people saying, we're going back from the 1st of June. Can you just make sure we've got the toners, we've got this, we've got that. So I think there's a sign now that people are thinking, a little bit of hope there that let's try and get back.
Coming to you, Jackie, you finding with your business, first of all, you're currently all working from home, but from a client's perspective as well, people starting to really consider that option?
To be honest, I haven't seen a lot of it. I mean, my haulage company is getting more work and they're really, really busy. But most of our clients are working from home. And obviously we realise that as we're talking to everybody.
People haven't government guidance. If you can work from home, then you should work.
And unfortunately, it's that definition of you can work from home. So yes, we go in and check the post, and running payroll can be a bit of a challenge at home if you're running big payrolls and you do need printers and you do need double screens. Most of my staff have taken their double screens home. So at the moment, we have no intention of opening in June. I'm hoping in July, but we've already said there's no way 30 staff are going back to work in July. Personally, I think between now and Christmas, I think we'll be rotating. I think we'll still be very flexible. And although we've got a big office and we can spread people around, I'm still a little bit nervous about everyone coming back. So it's definitely going to be rotating. Absolutely.
Helen, I want to bring you in because there is a question around, insurance or who is liable if you staff come back and you've done all that you thought you should do, but someone goes down with COVID-19 and they claim that they've caught it whilst at work. It seems to open up a whole new world of claims and how as employers do we handle that? What should we be doing?
It's going to be quite difficult, but the key thing is to make sure you're looking at the government guidance relevant to your industry. There's somebody said earlier, there's so much information out there, probably too much, I know, but have a look at the guidance that is relevant to your business, and it does clearly set out the steps that you need to take. And some very basic ones that I'm sure we all know are making sure that you've got your hand sanitizer at the entrances and exits of your building, making sure that any kitchen facilities are restricted. If you work in kind of serviced or shared offices, have a chat with your fellow occupants as well, the other companies that work in your buildings, or the buildings manager or whoever it might be, to find out what they're doing and how many people are going to be coming in and out of the business. But you do have a responsibility to undertake risk assessments, and it must be a specific COVID-19 risk assessment to make sure you're COVID-19 secure. And again, there's loads of information available on this, and I can send out, there's a blue and white poster that employers must complete and display, and that sets out steps such as I've checked whether we can work from home, I've got hand sanitizer, I've got PPE in place, we're managing social distancing as much as we can. If we can't social distance, then we're looking at what minimizing any risks, all those types of things. And then the really, really important thing is just to communicate with your staff. So the more you communicate with them what you're doing and make sure they understand it and have an opportunity to discuss their concerns, the more you're going to be able to address those, and the more comfortable they're going to feel about coming back to work. And there will, of course, be some people who are very frightened to come back to work genuinely, and they have a right to work in a safe environment. And of course, none of us, unfortunately, can stop the risk of coronavirus. We don't know how to do that. We're hoping and praying, aren't we, for medical people to help us with that. But in the meantime, we have to open our businesses as safely as we can, and we must do those risk assessments and remove or mitigate against those risks as much as we can, and listen to the concerns of our employees and talk those things through. And if they're being unreasonable, then fine, we can deal with that in an HR manner. But if they're genuinely concerned and they have things that we can address, then we should do our utmost to try and help them with that and address that.
And what about getting them to sign something that says that that they have understood what the risks might be, or that they're comfortable to come back? Is that important?
Yeah, so we recommend a return to work form that you can sit down with each employee and go through, and it ranges things such as, have you had any symptoms, or have you had COVID-19? Has anyone in your family had that? So you can assess the risks to other people. So sometimes people are just frightened that they think that somebody else is not social distancing as much as they have been, or not been isolating, and they're worried about that. So it's finding out that information, making sure they understand what they have to do if they have any symptoms, or anyone in their house has any symptoms, making sure they understand what the measures are you've put in place, making sure they have all the right PPE and they agree that they've got that. And a number of other things that you can use the form to just document everything, and then both sign it at the end. And then there's a nice record of all the things you've discussed, and if there's any concerns, you can document those and what you're going to do about those to help that individual get back to work safely.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Patricia, I'm going to come to you. I want to just move us for the last bit into, let's look to the future. There are some green shoots. We are hoping that we're going to come back in some form or other. The high streets are going to open, albeit in a different way and slowly. And I know that as a bid, you're looking at bringing some stuff into the town centre, albeit virtually. But one of the things that we all need to do is start to be being confident, be positive. And certainly if you're looking after a town centre like you are, along with obviously the council, giving back people that confident message that actually Sutton is a safe place to be. It's okay, to come in. We've got it sorted. We're under control. Can you just talk a little bit about what the plans are? I know there's a task force that's sort of meeting, And I think you mentioned earlier that there's some sort of social distancing signage coming in. Just update us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I think the important thing to note is that a lot of our businesses have already been doing some social distancing with their queuing, albeit in their own DIY ways, shall we say. So what we've done is we've stepped in with an organisation to make that a little bit more tidy and a bit clearer and a bit more uniform. So throughout the town centre, you'll see some of the stenciling that will go up around the bigger stores potentially, and also some of the smaller ones, just to give people an understanding of where the queue line goes. We've noticed a lot of people have been queuing in quite precarious areas, and as the high street gets busier, of course, there's going to be more deliveries, and there certainly is going to be more footfall. So that queuing system for people is going to become a lot more challenging, particularly when you look at things like street furniture and A-boards in the way and gated access and so on. So there is an awful lot to consider. I think, for the most part, as I said earlier on, the problem I have at the minute is everyone's very much running ahead, very gung-ho, and very excited and wanting to get back in, trying to I want to get this business going and I want to do everything. But there is an awful lot to consider. So I would just urge everyone to kind of take just a moment and just step back a little bit, because it does, whatever you do, particularly if you're a retailer or if you're in an office environment, as everyone on this call has kind of pointed out, there are different things to consider. And one of those, I think one of the major ones, bear with me a second, sorry, my daughter. One of the things you do really need to think about is whether you should be doing it. Should you be opening your doors now? Are you actually ready to do that? Are your staff going to come back when you open those doors? Are they going to want to? Are they going to feel safe to? I think positively, the town centre is going to see footfall. I think it is going to be reduced. I think the events that we've had previously are certainly not going to be the events we have in the future, but that encourages us to start thinking about events in a different way as well. Particularly whether we look more at those virtual events, ones that are a bit more interactive for people to start involving themselves in virtually, using apps and using that kind of technology over and above just the physical presence of being somewhere. So we're looking a lot of that. We've got our science festival we normally do once a year, which is usually attended between 7,500 to 8,000 people. We're now looking at a way we can deliver that virtually in July, which is another interactive way, as well as Christmas. As a bid, we've already been thinking about Christmas back in January, and unfortunately the virus has come and that's thrown all of our plans completely out of whack. So we do have to think about that and how we adapt. But I think I was saying this the other day, and I've seen some stuff come up online as well in a lot of the forums, that actually there are some real positives we can take from some of these changes. I think we've been used to working the same way for such a long period of time, and particularly, I know Helen's aware of this, but when you look at flexible working and how much of a touchy subject for some businesses that was, as to the amount of people now working from home and managing a work-life balance with kids and with working from home, it's got to make some of these employers particularly step back and go, oh, we can do that. And actually, as someone that might be looking for work, as somebody coming in, wanting to be employed in the brand, that's a far more attractive option than being in an office from 9 to 5 and being chained to your desk. So I think there are some real positives that will come out of this. It's very difficult to see them, I think, sometimes, all the negativity. But I certainly think there's some opportunity there and some positive opportunity as well.
Right. And just on the subject of PPE, I know we touched upon it last week. We had Meerkat on. They were talking about the opportunity on behalf of. Have I gone? Am I still here?
Yeah, you're there. You're there.
Is there an update on that?
Yeah. So just to recap on that, Meerkat, who are a consultancy. Yeah, we can hear you. Are you there? She's gone. So Meerkat are a company we've been working with for a while. They're a kind of consultancy who deal with things around. Is she still there? Is she gone? There you are. There you go. So Meerkat, a consultancy, we've brought them in as a bid. We brought them in as a bid early this year to start looking at working with smaller businesses around overhead costs. And I know Rob's very keen on this. It's kind of looking at how you can manage cash flow instead of paying out on large bills, and how you can renegotiate contracts as part of a much bigger group buying process. So we brought them in earlier this year to do that. And then obviously this came up, and now they've adjusted their offer to help us out by offering a group procurement on things like PPE equipment, cleaning and cleansing. So the more businesses that take up the offer, the lower the cost. So it is important that people do these things. I am conscious that a lot of organisations are out there offering stuff that aren't certified to do so, and they're also not of they're charging a lot of money to do it. So I wanted to make sure that the businesses within not just the district, within Sutton, really have access to something where they know they're getting something at a fair price. They also know that they're getting something that is certified and is the correct material to be used in line with any guidance or any guidelines. So I would encourage everyone, all the details are on our website, have a look at it, and it's worth dropping the account line just to see if they can resource stuff that you need. Don't go overboard is another thing. We don't know what people are going to want to do. And again, this is another thing about identifying trend. At the moment, we don't know what the guidance is about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, apart from on public transport. So there is this surge of people wanting to buy 500 masks or, 5 million masks and have them on their door. You don't know your customers are going to wear them, first of all. So again, it's sitting back, knowing where you can get them from as and when you do need them, but really identifying what you're going to need after you've seen things unfold a little bit, and look at what people are doing, look at what your customers are doing.
Right, thank you. I'm going to come back to everyone now for one final word. Let's try and keep it positive today. Let's try and finish on a positive note. What's your sort of green shoot message that you can share with everyone? Rajan, over to you.
Talk to your clients. I think for any business right now, it's about retention and looking after your existing clients. So a good example for us right now is we made a note of clients we spoke to in lockdown. We're going back to them to say, what are your plans? And it's a great opportunity to just have a frank conversation for, business to business, doesn't matter what your profession is. So just keep talking to your clients. And the best tool right now, because we can't meet somebody, is pick up the phone, forget email and all that. And if you can Zoom or you can FaceTime, even better, but speak to your clients.
Communicate. I think that's something that everyone seems to be getting a lot better at. People seem to be a lot more accessible. For you, Jackie?
I think for me, it's think differently, think about your vision and your goals, where you want to be, what you want your business to look like. And I echo Rajan, communicate. Staff, employees, your customers, your suppliers. Don't bury your head in the sand. You need to talk to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Use it as an opportunity to think differently, think outside the box. An opportunity to maybe transform your business in some way. Rob, thoughts on that?
Yeah, the key word there is opportunity. It's not about negativity, it's about opportunity. There are a vast amounts of opportunity that come out of adversity, and now is the time to actually look at your business, consider it, make it better, make it something that is going to actually shine in the future. This is a short-term problem. There is it's a long game, and we'll always bounce back. Everything will bounce back. Just make sure that you're ahead of the queue by grabbing those opportunities now.
Great, thank you. Helen, final words from you?
So echo the communication and echo the planning, and my planning tips are manage your holidays, manage how you think your business is going to look like and what your structure for your people is going to look like, and start planning for that, and start planning for your business to come back to offices and workplaces, and make sure you do that safely and communicate that with your staff.
Great, thank you. Patricia, final words from you?
I think it's just what everyone said. It is, I think it is an opportunity. It's not all negative. There are some real positive opportunities out there, and I think I think with the right kind of understanding of what your business is capable of, I think some people will come out of this really, really positively. So just grab every opportunity really as much as possible,
and communicate with Patricia and the team at Sutton Bid. You're lucky to have a bid in your centre that's there to help you. It's an extra resource. Make sure that you use it and use that to bounce your ideas off. Thank you to everybody for taking part this afternoon. Thank you to everybody that's listening. The good news is that the sun is shining. So let's take that as a positive. Go outside, enjoy it, get that fresh air, stay well, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks very much. Bye.